run through what's happening this morning. So, welcome to Royal Trinity Green, to everyone who has been here a lot of times, and those new faces. There's a lot of new faces this morning. I just need to say thank you to Ian again for running these business talk events in coordination with Lindsay. And welcome to Libby and Connor this morning. We're all looking forward to hearing a conversation. There's no fire alarms planned today, so if there is an alarm, it's real. The nearest escape, I believe, is in that corner, so we'll head out in that direction. If I can remind you all, please put your phones on silent or turn them off. That would be good. And hope you can all stay around afterwards for some networking, and there'll be some lunch provided. We do have members of the business investment team here this morning. Got Richard and Mark over there. At the front, if anybody wants to discuss anything related to business support, please come and approach us during our working session. Enjoy this morning. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sarah. There is a lot of new faces. Who's here for the first time for our business talks? Right, okay. Who's friends with Libby? Right. Who's friends with Connor? It's since you did Corrie. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I've got two friends. Brilliant.
Good morning, everyone. So we've got award-winning producer and CEO of Nanopeg Productions, Libby Walker.
Hi, guys.
And Royal Television Society award-winning director, writer and producer, director of Red Stamp Productions, Connor Langley.
Big time.
Sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The royal bit at the front.
I'm jealous now.
Who wants to kick us off? Libby, how about you tell us a little bit about your background, who you are?
Yeah, sure. So for the other people in the room, just aside from the two that actually know me, I'm Libby Walker, born and raised in South Shields, and then I moved away to London very early on, where I did a 3-year musical theatre course at the London Studio Centre. I worked in the industry down there for like 10 to 12 years, doing various things, presenting jobs, radio presenting, and acting, obviously. And then I retrained in acting for screen at the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama. And that was a 1-year course, which was very valuable. And as part of that course, we had to do make a short film from scratch. And we were all like, well, I'm only here to act. But Amanda Brennan, who ran the course at the time, was very good with, listen, it's no good just being an actor. You need to bring more skills to the table. And also it's a really valuable experience to learn that your tiny, tiny little acting part in a film, you know, means nothing compared to what else is going on around it. Like, it's just one tiny little cog. So that was an amazing experience. We didn't get any funding. We didn't know what on earth we were doing because none of us were trained in like camera work or anything. And we literally had to learn all of the skills from scratch and go out there and do it. Not only did you have to be in that film, you also had to be one of the integral production roles. So producer, director, production design, or writer. So then naturally I decided, you know, being an organised woman, that I would be the producer because I didn't trust anybody else to do that job. And by accident was very good at it. And our film went on to win lots of awards nationally and internationally. It was actually upheld in the Dominican Republic and honoured by their nationals as a film that really represented what their culture was. And for me as a producer, that was my biggest win, because if anybody knows anything about production, I'm all about like the authenticity of the product. And so having, you know, people from the Dominican Republic say that this film was so authentic to them, that's probably my biggest honor ever. The writer was actually from the Dominican Republic, so.
I was wondering where that little link was.
Yeah. So Victor, he was from the Dominican Republic, and he chose to write. It was just part of our course. That's a little bit about me.
So I did a little bit of homework yesterday, right? And you talk about drama and speech, but you used to dance, right?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so I did 3 years musical theatre.
Didn't you do
school.
X Factor thing?
Oh, I
Nah.
thought that might come out to haunt me. Yeah, I did.
Oh, we're not talking about that.
All right, we can, yeah. 2008,
Uh-huh.
Desire, Libby Walsh's house.
Yeah.
If you go in the Gazette archives, there'll be a few
Yeah.
scandalous images there.
Yeah. But I
Not that scandalous.
I said
Just
to you,
fashion choices.
I said to you, is there anywhere you don't want to go? And you were like, no, ask me what you
Yeah,
want.
you can.
Yeah, right. Okay. So I watched a little YouTube clip and it said that did you hold yourself back to do X Factor for a year or something? You're going to go and do drama. I'm telling you what you did now. You were going to go and do drama or something, but you went, no, I'm going to do X Factor, and it put you back a year
so
or something.
originally, I was studying musical theatre at Newcastle College. And a group of us girls in our final year, we actually just did it as a joke. And we're like, shall we just, and we hadn't even registered. And we're like, shall we just drive up? So we commandeered one of the girls' mum's cars, drove up to Scotland. We found out where the auditions were being held. And then just bombarded them, went, we must have lost our registration form. Anyway, they needed groups at the time, so they just hurried us through.
Right.
And then by accident also, we got through the first round. And then we had to stay overnight in Scotland with Carly's mum's car, which she wasn't best pleased about. Oh, we're ringing everyone like, so just in Scotland, and now I'm going to have to stay. My mum's like, you've done what? And we were like, yeah. Didn't have any clean underwear, had to go to Primark for some knickers.
Connor's nodding away, yeah, being there, yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the X Factor
Good.
tale. And then I'd actually at the time got into Bird College in London, but because we come out at judges' houses and we got offered like a contract with Tayo Cruz's label and Jamie Benz, who now manages Blow My Faith. So we kind of like went on tour with GLS for a little bit and did like all this fun stuff. And then with all girl bands, it ends terribly. And then I was like, I need to go back to London now and learn my craft.
I'm glad I found that because you weren't going to tell us
No,
that.
I wasn't. Of course I wasn't. It's my worst kept secret.
I'll find it. Connor, so I did a little bit digging on you.
Oh.
And you're a dancer as well. No. You've got experience working in film, television, commercial industries, but you graduated from the University of Sunderland, didn't you?
Yeah.
Did you have to move out of the area once you graduated, or?
Yeah. So like my sort of route in the industry was quite interesting. So I made a series of films for my dissertation in my last year of university. And I kind of blew off all my other classes and just focused on that because I was like, nobody cares what grade I get. I just want to see what I can do. And it kind of panned out for us. So the managing director of Shine North, which is now Worker Bee, which I think is the UK's biggest independent TV company, he ended up seeing it and he kind of worked with the university to kind of give us a job like before I'd even graduated. And it was like, so I had to go to Manchester. Their offices were just like in the newly built media city and everything. And they were like this, at the time, they were kind of up and coming, but they had some really exciting things on the slate. So my first ever project before I even graduated was a Discovery Channel flagship show that went all over the world with Idris Elba. And it was a baptism. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. But like, luckily there was like some really nice supportive people there who sort of like held me hand and kind of forget everything you learned at university. This is how it actually does it. And I just ended up on this like track for a long time where I was just doing documentary after documentary. But I'd always wanted to be scripted. And I just couldn't find a way to kind of get off until like basically COVID, you know, it kind of put the halt on everything. And it was kind of like a nice breaking point to go off and like do my own thing, you know, when the kind of industry slowed down. But yeah, so for about 10 years, I was just non-stop on action sport documentaries, which I have zero interest in. It was, you know, it was a great like.
Sport, Connor, are you sure?
It was a good playground, you know. It was a great time to learn and like sort of hone my skills and like kind of bring it back. To
So what roles were you doing when you were there?
Well, I started off as like, this is kind of how it was weird. I started off in like a midweight thing. So like normally you start off as a runner, then a production assistant, you kind of, you know, junior researcher. They put me straight in as a senior researcher. So I was suddenly working with people who were like, you know, had far more years than the experience, but like were working beneath us. And I was like, I don't fully understand what I'm doing. So like I say, I had a producer called Ben who like really took us under his wing and showed us how it was done. But like I moved up quite quickly to like junior producer. But again, like I was kind of a frustrated director because that's always what I wanted to do. But like I say, like it's difficult once you've been pigeonholed in the industry. It's kind of difficult to get out of those things. So like I was known as the action sport assistant producer, and it was a hard label to get up because you can't turn down the work and like suddenly take a huge pay cut and start at the bottom again in like a different department. So it was great, but it was also difficult, because I was doing something kind of adjacent to what I wanted, but not quite what I wanted.
Is anyone in the film industry here? Yeah, cool. Is it worth just telling us a little bit about what their roles are? So what does a producer do? What does a director do?
A producer's kind of there to facilitate the production, like organize everything, like crew it up, cast it up, get everybody together at the right place at the right time. Yeah.
Sort the catering. It's the worst job.
Basically, a producer's job is to like bend to the director's every whim. Like, like a director will go, oh, I don't want to shoot in this building anymore. I want to go over there.
We're going to fall out, I think. And the producer's role is to pull the director into check,
Maybe. But that was my experience with it. Suddenly it was just like, I don't want to shoot in this building anymore. I want to shoot in that building. And then it's my job to go and sort that out. But I actually wanted to be that person who goes, I don't want to shoot in this building. I want to shoot in that building. So the director's kind of responsible for the creative vision of the piece. So like, they're there for like kind of like the inception and basically beginning to end of like the actual creative part of it. But I would say producer, although there is creativity involved in it, it's more of like administration and.
Well, I think it depends how hands-on you are as a producer, obviously talking from a producer's perspective, because I like to get involved with the creative process from the very beginning, because I want to know that the original story that's been written that myself and the director have agreed on is upheld throughout. So it could be that the director's written the story, or it could be that there's a writer employed to write the story. Like we're writing Kings of the North at the moment, we've employed a writer to do that. And so it's incredibly crucial that that story isn't run away with through the other heads of departments, so that the director doesn't get carried away putting his spin on it and overusing his creative license. Similarly, in the editor has also a lot of power and a lot of creative flair, and you can change an entire storyline in the edit, which I've fouled to a few times as an actor. It's on the cutting room floor, as they say. So yeah, I think as a hands-on producer, it's good to get in there and oversee all elements of it, and not just be like, you can sit in this room and do what you want.
It's definitely a partnership, though. You've got to have like a level of trust there, because like it hasn't happened to me personally, but I've seen a lot of productions break down just because someone's always got to give. One of them's got to leave, and they're just not gelling. Otherwise, it just can't move forward, because it just creates these atmospheres that affects everybody.
Yeah, it should be like a true collaborative effort, which you can't get if there's not like a give and take. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm glad I asked that question. Yeah.
We're like a married couple now. Connor.
So Connor, Red Stamp.
Yeah.
You mentioned COVID, so that brought you home, I guess.
Yeah, a little bit before that, actually. I suppose it's part of my story, but like, I got very sick just before COVID with like sort of personal thing, and like that sort of like brought us back home and made us kind of step out of the industry, and I ended up like being isolated for about 8 months before COVID even began, where I couldn't really leave the house, and it sort of like taught us my value. It made us realize that like I never really want to work for anybody again in the traditional sense. You know what I mean? Because I realized like, oh, I'm kind of disposable. So like it was kind of the catalyst to go like, now's the time to like start my own business, because like I've got the hands-on skills. I know, I know how to produce, I know how to direct, I know how to edit, I know how to shoot. We've kind of got all that covered. But like the one thing I was kind of nervous about was like I have really no idea how to start and run a business. Still don't, it's kind of learning as you go. But like I started going to like all these like similar things to this, speak to other people who were doing it. And everyone's got a good bit of advice for you, but the confusing thing is that everybody you speak to then contradicts. You know what I mean? And I think like what I kind of discovered was that you just got to kind of find your own way, feel your way through, and like it's working for us so far. So
Yeah.
How about you, Libby? When the pandemic hit, what was that? Did that go a bit?
Yeah, so everything basically completely stopped. There was no like new auditions coming through or anything, and a lot of filming did come to a halt. But there was one production, House of the Dragon, was still allowed to continue. So I actually, because I'm quite good at surviving, been through a lot in my short years, was like, oh, listen, I'm gonna just do some essay work, which means it's like a background artist, supporting artist, because we like to be appreciated. And so I did like a whole year on House of the Dragon as a supporting artist, because they were only allowed the same 50 extras just because of the COVID rules. It was like, that's your bubble now, and you had to have a car. So it was all like kept really in-house. And from that, I learned so much about the production, because we were like one-to-one with a lot of the crew, and you got to see how a bigger scale production was, you know, done from beginning to end, and all the ways around certain problems and tricks. Like if you only had 50 extras, how do you do a huge crowd scene? Well, you go into this big CGI box and get your body scanned, and then they'll superimpose you over here in the edit, and then everything's a big green screen. And so that was such a big eye opener for me. I'm really, really glad that I used like my nous and just thought, oh, okay, I'm going to actually, because a lot of actors have a big ego about doing background work, and they won't like to tell you. And so a lot of them wouldn't do it, but because I had the mind of, I might actually like to, and I was already applying for my course at Royal Central School at this point, so I knew an element of that would it entail making your own film, making your own work. And I was like, right, how am I going to learn how to make my own work and also make money in COVID when nothing else is happening? So I just went and I spent a year doing that, which was so fun.
Where was that at?
Like Leavesden. It was in
Maybe
the
know where that
studios in Leavesden, and then Lot was on location as well. So some people went to Northern Ireland and I think Crete or something. Filming over there. Yeah, in Croatia. There was loads of different places. Just depending what unit you were in. So we were like unit fire. They had unit fire and unit blood. So you knew if you were in unit blood, someone's going to get killed somewhere. And if you're in unit fire, that's going to be a hot day and a heat wave. Yeah.
Barbara's looking at me because I can't wait to tell you about my essay stuff I did.
Really?
Oh, yes. Where was it with COVID?
Yeah.
So that I was locked in a hotel for a weekend with Brenda Blessing, but I couldn't go anywhere near her because she was like at risk. So then I just had to sit in a hotel for like 4 days, I think, and I get like carry-outs coming to me. I was desperate to go for a run, but I couldn't leave the building in case I put her at risk. But it was a really strange time, wasn't it?
Yeah, this happened to me. I actually filmed Fisherman's Friends when it was locked down, and I had to be in quarantine, you know, for like a whole week because I had to do a kiss scene. Not that I'm bitter, and then it got cut from the final edit, and I was like, well, what a waste of my time.
Yeah.
But no, that was a lovely experience.
Yeah, I did a policeman role before that as well, and they cut that. It's good.
Oh,
you can see my elbow.
Isn't it?
Yeah, good.
I think you'd make a good policeman.
I was a good solicitor, actually. Really good solicitor. I've got that.
Yeah.
Writing things down.
Strong jawline.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah. So kind of red stamp, then you set it up and you got help. You taught everybody. You got some funding as well, didn't you?
Yeah. We got initially, so I had a real cool start. Like I say, we started the business not really knowing how businesses worked. You know, so like for a long time, we were just a couple of guys just sat in a room going, well, what do we do now? You know, so we just started applying for funding, and we ended up winning 30,000 from Innovate UK. I think that was in 2023. So we used that to buy like kits. So we bought like broadcast quality cameras, like some really nice prime lenses, some really nice lights and everything. And it kind of enabled us to like start getting like those first little jobs, because suddenly we could bring costs down massively because we wouldn't have to rent that stuff in, you know. And like, it's all stuff that we'd used before. So we kind of knew how it all worked and everything. So we could kind of just get right into it. Then just last year, we got some more money from Innovate UK and the good people at South Tyneside Council. And we sort of like expanded with business, but like sort of went down a different route. So we've opened up a post-production studio. So yeah, we spent a lot of money in there, and like pretty much the only ones in the region kind of doing that, or particularly with like that exact setup and stuff. So the feedback's been really good to that. Yeah, it's a cool place to be in.
I'm never not there.
So I hear.
Sometimes I just go for a coffee.
Yeah, yeah. And your colleagues here as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Going all right then? So are you in there every day as well?
Not as much as Libby.
Right.
Well, basically, I found out there was a fridge with a bar in there. So,
Oh,
like,
really?
you know, I'm always asking questions, you know, about how to run a business.
Yeah, like we're in there quite a lot. So we just had our first couple of jobs come through for Film Hub North, which is sort of supported by the BFI and things like that. So we're helping 4 first-time directors with their short films. The feedback's been really good. We're sort of wrapping that thing up now, kind of looking to the next thing. So we've been sort of working globally to bring like some international productions in. But what we really want is to bring more like sort of English and like local productions in. Like we want to work with Libby and what she's doing with Nana Peg and help and support with their post-production, you know.
So actually think about Nana Peg then, and you both kind of went out of the region, came back. What's it like in the region now then? What you trying to create an ecosystem? There's groundworks happening. Tell us a little bit about what's happening in the region.
So actually, I was really surprised when I moved up. So I only moved back up in October. Before that, I was like in London completely for like 16 years. And so obviously all my network was down in London. And then Neil's networks all really mainly in LA. And
Neil?
so Neil Marshall. So Neil Marshall's is my business partner. He's like quite a well-known director. He's got a bit of a cult following for The Descent, Hellboy. He actually was nominated for an Emmy for Game of Thrones. So we've gone into business together because he's also from the region. And then when we moved back up, just by kind of doing what Connor was doing beforehand and going out and networking and meeting new people, you actually see that there is quite a strong film community up here anyway, and there are people that are tapping into talent, and there's people doing work now, just there's no torchlight shone on there because there's no big names associated with things, but there is people that have been putting the graft in and doing the work 4 years up here. You know, like in The Frame, I was lucky enough to go and speak at one of their events. And I think that's where I grasped the fact that, wow, there's such a good community of people wanting to help each other's projects and communicate. Because as I say, the creative industry, it's not like, and we get this question a lot from other businesses, it's like, we're not in competition with them, or they're not in competition. But it's not like that, because everybody's working to make something creative together, not compete with, oh, your product's better than mine, who's the most innovative in the market, because the innovation comes from storytelling.
Is that what it's like? Sort of London, you were there. Is it the same collaborative?
Yeah,
Is it
it's
really?
very
Right.
collaborative
Oh,
down
cool.
there. Yeah, everyone kind of like wants to help each other, or they'll connect you with
good.
people that you know, because at the end of the day, they just want the best people for the job to help facilitate the process in the shortest amount of time possible.
So there's no torch, you said. Is that on you both then to sort of shout and do things like this? And
It's a lot of pressure.
I don't think it's just on us. You know what I mean? Like I say, there is a vibrant community.
Yeah.
Like it's interesting because largely I think we're the only ones kind of doing what we're doing in South Tyneside of kind of our scale. You know, with some sort of smaller urban things as Danny, of course, and stuff like that. But yeah, like the region's developing for sure. It's a lot different from 12 years ago when I started. But yeah, like it's a really difficult thing because like our concern is like we're often seen as like a service area, you know what I mean? But we're there to like help bigger productions who move in for a couple of days, then move out, and like they're just to support for those couple of days. I think what me and Libby want to do is sort of like have work beginning and ending in the region.
Yeah.
So that's what we're kind of shouting about. But like, you know, we still want those big productions to come in, and you know, there's a whole economy based around that and stuff as well. So yeah, like I think we need more unity, I suppose, in our little community. Because sometimes I don't think we're all like singing from the same sheet, but like I think we're moving closer towards that. We're getting more of an ecosystem built, and we're starting to have all those needs met going forward.
And I think it's also about like educating people that, you know, the film industry is a viable career path. Like it's not something that's like so Hollywood and out of your reach. which a lot of people want you to believe, but it's not. It's like it's at your front doorstep. It's just different ways of going around things. And I think that's a lot of the hurdles that we've been facing, certainly at Nana Peg Productions, because nobody really understands that, like, how the business works. Like,
I don't think a lot of people realize how much like supporting industry is needed, you know, like from catering to trucks and drivers and hotels and all the PPE, all this kind of health and safety, you know what I mean? Joiners, electricians, plumbers, you know, a big film comes in, you need all these kinds of people.
Yeah.
But when you speak to people and go, have you thought about this? It's just never crossed the mind up here, you know, who are already in those fields.
And also that's not going to be necessarily beneficial to them if there isn't, like, if it is continually used as a service area, because what happens is, for example, when the Americans come across, they use the studios, they use all the hotels or the catering and stuff for a period of time, and then bye, we're gone. We're off back to LA to do a post, whatever. What we want to do is, obviously we've got Crownworks. Crownworks is still quite up in the air at the minute, and it might take a long time to be built, but we're not necessarily concerned about that because we do a lot on location. Red Stamp have been doing a lot on location anyway, so we don't basically need a studio at this point. It would be nice to have something going in there so they can keep their lights on and their water running and things like that, but we're not necessarily, that's not going to affect our success in the region massively. What we want to do is build a slate, and we are building a slate at Nana Peg. I don't know, probably Red Stamp will be as well, of productions, so that once we're wrapped on a film, there's another one already in pre-production or ready to go in production, so that it's continually working, so that we can also help the wider community. We can help local businesses get involved with, as I say, you need cars for driving the talent, you need buses for all the supporting artists, you need caterers that can cater to like hundreds of people at once at certain times, and then you need high-end hospitality for your big stars that are coming in. You need hotels to put people up in, like of all different scales, like 5-star to your Premier Inn, or do you know what I mean? It literally will affect everyone, and so I guess that's why we're here, aren't we, Ian?
So you talk about Crownworks. That
Yeah.
sounds like service, and then you're creative, and they need to work together.
So Crownworks is a studios, and we're like in production. So our job is to make the product that would be going in there to use the studios. I mean, I don't know if they've got a production company.
Well, it's being sort of spearheaded by Fulwell, who do like a lot of stuff like the Kardashians and things like that. So I'm sure they're going to use it for the Sunderland Till I Die, of course. It's their big local thing. So I'm sure they've got their own sort of slate with things going on. But yeah, like I want to be a creator. I don't want to help other people create things. I want to create my own stuff. You know, so yeah, I think we need more of that in the region more than anything. Like ideas that are born and built here.
Well, that was a nice segue into Sundancers.
Oh yes,
yeah,
our very local film.
You want to create your own stuff? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we're lucky enough to get a bit of money from the guys at First Port on the sort of condition that we helped a community interest company engage with a for-profit business as sort of like a demonstration of a business model where basically when I was in Manchester, I used to work on a lot of stuff called branded content, which is the ways like a lot of TV stuff's going. So like there's not much money, there's not as much money in like films and television as there used to be. So a lot of production companies are going to brands. It's kind of product placement, but not quite, because what we kind of learned is that people hate being advertised to. You know, you're on YouTube, you're on that skip button the second it comes up. You know, you won't tolerate it more than 5 seconds. You know, people record TV and watch it later just so they can fast forward through the ads. So you got to kind of come up with like discrete ways of getting like companies, not necessarily the products, but at least the values across. So we work with a brand called Finisterre, and they've got a whole sort of social arm that helps people get access to the ocean who otherwise have access to the ocean. So that, you know, they build sort of bespoke wetsuits for like disabled people, for, you know, custom to however their body works and things like that. They help with like beach access and like beach accessible wheelchairs and sort of wooden walkways to actually get to the ocean for traditional wheelchairs and stuff like that. So when we says, oh, we've got a bit of money to make a film to demonstrate this, do you want to be involved? The bit were hand off. You know what I mean? They knew exactly what we were doing. And what was really great from us from a creative point of view is like we had full creative control to tell a story that we cared about, set in our own town, about the people in this town, you know? And I think the film's gone down, well, especially locally, it's gone down very well, you know? I think it touched a lot of people.
Yeah. Is it, who's seen Sundancers? Who's seen it? Yeah. Not enough hands? Where's it being shown next?
Oh, well, isn't that interesting, Ian? Where is it being shown?
No one likes being sold to, Connor. We've just said that, yeah. All them leaflets on your things, that's my conference. Yeah, we are going to show it. We are going to show it at the conference, but nowhere else has it been. It's been around, right?
It was in New York last week where it went down really well. And we got a really nice email and they sent a video link to like a lot of audience reactions where they were like doing like these standard questions to everybody who came out, and came up frequently as a lot of people's favorite film of the festival and stuff. So it's really nice to know that it's got like this international appeal. Potentially Paris next week. We're gonna hear from that real soon, and then we've got like a whole sort of UK festival tour planned for it. But we'll see if we make those selections. But I'm fairly confident that it'll get where it needs to go.
Sure. And have you thought about what happens next with Sundancers, or is that it?
It's difficult to say, you know. One of our things that we did when we made it, we wanted it always to be like free to access, but we don't want to charge people for the film. So like if it was to go anywhere, we'd like it to go on television. We'd never do it like a paid video on demand service or anything like that. So it might be a AVOD, as they call them, which is an advertisement video on demand service where there's, you know, got to watch 5 seconds of ads, but then you got to watch it or something. But yeah, we're in talks and discussions about all these kinds of places, but nothing's been like really confirmed yet.
Yeah. It was a really good story. Loved it. And I'm going to segue to you now, Libby, because you're working on a project which is telling stories. And there's a mosque right over there, which Muhammad Ali came and visited once, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
So do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. So we've actually got 2 films in pre-production at the minute. The first one is Kings of the North, which is based on the tale of Muhammad Ali coming to the Northeast, and Johnny Walker, the local painter and decorator, and his trials to get him over from Chicago to South Shields, which obviously we all know that he did and he was very successful at. So that's our first story. And then our second one is Pound of Flesh, which is going to be, I don't know if anybody is familiar with Neil's work up here, but he's writing and directing that one. And that's going to be kind of like in his style of like a Get Carter gangster action film. So our idea is we're going to dovetail, hopefully, once everything's up and running successfully and we have investment and things, to simultaneously have 2 slates in production at once. So Neil, obviously his passion is action and modernising stories from the Northeast, or for stories to be shot in the Northeast. And for me, I really want to tell stories that are local stories that have a global appeal, kind of like the Muhammad Ali one. And once I've said that, a lot of people keep throwing ideas at me. We've got the Dolly Peel. We've got the guy who runs something, a Formula One. Someone told me about that. One of those guys. So obviously my slate is much more underdeveloped because it takes a lot more research, with it being historical and factual stories. And you know, I'm big on the authenticity, so it's going to take a lot of.
So you mentioned investment there, like, so is that a barrier at the moment? Do you need investment when you're going to write scripts? And
yeah, you do, yeah, because obviously if we're not writing them ourselves and we're hiring writers in, because we want to also help facilitate other people's careers, so we're paying a writer to write Kings of the North at the moment. We've got our first couple of drafts, but we're just meeting the constant road bump of the final seed investment money, just to ensure the script is where it can be. Once you've got that script, it's kind of like a leverage, like a currency. You can take that around, get your director attached. We've loosely got Chris Foggan already saying that he's happy to be attached. He did Bank of Dave, but also Neil gave him his first job. I believe it was on Centurion. And so there's like a lot of loyalty there, and also he's native to the area. So So how's it going with that? Yeah. So then after that, you attach your cast essentially, and on our slate we've got some quite big people that we would like to attach. Quite keen on John Boyega from Muhammad Ali, just because they look so similar. It's unbelievable.
Right.
And Jamie Bell for Johnny Walker, and also again like getting local talent in. That's what we really want to do. But once you've got big names attached, that's when the bigger investment comes. And then we've been learning about business models as well. Like Connor was saying, it's hard when you come from a creative background. Usually you're used to this hustle and you're used to the model of, we've got to get money from here, 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 here. When you talk to other businesses that are solidly business focused, it's like learning how to do a business pitch instead of just a film pitch deck that people throw money at you for. And, you know, like, it's like learning a new language so we can transfer what we do to talk to business savvy minds so that they've got something tangible to look at. So Neil and I are working out our business plan and doing like a flow diagram of, you know, how the investment process works in film from beginning to end, and how you can accrue your costs and also earn money on top of that as well through like sales or like percentage sales back and things like that.
You got me excited there. You
All
said
the
business
lovely
model.
things.
So I'm instantly
Really?
going to revenue. Yeah, I'm sad. In the revenue stream. So whilst you're doing all this, you need to be making money.
Exactly.
How does that work?
So for us, we're post-production studios. So like we want to create things, but like Libby was saying there, like it takes a long time to pull all these things together to get like the money together to make something, and like, you know, even putting together a script and everything. So sometimes films can be years in development. So you need to sustain the business and yourself somehow. So like I still work freelance. I still do the odd productions and stuff for other people. We've built this post-production studio primarily to service the local area and sort of other productions. Because someone's still making something somewhere, you know what I mean? And it helps grow our network as well, you know, and bring other things and investment into the Northeast. So yeah, it's a weird thing of like, because like I say, I used to work for the biggest independent TV company in the world. You know, they were getting commissions all over, but they were still doing commercials and, you know, the sort of not so interesting stuff to creatives and stuff, because they still need to keep the lights on, and those are typically big payers, you know. So it's weird, and the model's constantly changing in that as well, you know, like streaming's changing, video on demand's changing, cinemas are changing. Like in the 10 years, the industry's going to probably be completely different. And, you know, we're talking about the BBC license fees getting talked about now, about removing that and stuff. So like, it's scary, but exciting at the same time, you know, like it might revolutionize like more independent productions to come up with more creative ways to make money and stuff, you know. Like I'm a big fan of the like the touring films, you know, like a lot of independent films, the director will then just go on tour with them to like loads of local independent cinemas and stuff. And because there's a Q&A and everything after, it tends to draw an audience in. So I'd like to see something like that again, you know, like you'll drive in movies. I always like how the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, when they brought that out, it only had one copy of the film, so they had like drive it around America to all these like drive-in things. So the people who've seen it last, the film was in terrible shape because it's all scratched and battered and stuff. But that's what people started to love about it, you know. And like, that's why when I seen that film, it looks so dirty and rubbish, but it's great, you know.
Yeah, cool. Libby, you mentioned about business models there. How's your company structured at the moment? Is it a limited company? Is it?
Yeah, so Nana Peg is a limited company. Yeah, so it's just Neil and I. And then we'll be kind of like the figureheads of the company. And then as it expands, you know, we will have to then bring on more staff, especially if we're doing the amount of productions that we envision that we will be. So then it'll become more of a, maybe like a production house.
Still in South Tyneside?
Still in South Tyneside, yeah. We're adamant we'll stay here. We've had a lot of people when we were looking for funding being like, well, why don't you just change your postcode to Sunderland, or why don't you just go across the water? And we're like, no, why would I do that? My mum's house is there. Like, I'm going to set up shop in South Shields, thank you.
Good. I was looking at Gren there for a second and see if his eyebrows are going to be raised. Got to keep him in South Tyneside, Gren, right? Yeah, good. And what about things like the pledge then? Have you been involved in that?
Yeah, of course, we're
Yeah.
part of the pledge. You know, Lee.
Ah,
It ties in nicely with what we were saying earlier, where there's like, you know, productions need this like
Yeah.
local ecosystem and things. And like, I think what would be great is if more pledge members would sort of like, if we could talk to them more about that sort of thing, to go like, you know, even if you don't know it, there's still a good chance you're part of the entertainment industry. If you,
yeah.
and we can help find a way in for you, you know.
Mhm.
Actually, I tell you, he was really good at that. Sorry, point you out, Wayne from Hospitality and Hope. He's so switched on. Actually, as soon as I moved home and he saw the articles in the Gazette and the Cron, Wayne reached out and then he was like, actually, I can educate you on how my company can get involved in what you're doing. And that was so brilliant, such an eye opener. And then if we had more businesses like that, it would be fantastic, because as we say, it is a collaborative effort. It's not just this is our job and this is your job. It's kind of like everyone gels in.
Yeah. Because you need people, you need accountants,
Yeah.
you need marketing companies.
Yeah.
But you know, you need lots of different people to help you as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome.
Health and safety, legal, literally everything.
Yeah. Cool. You mentioned Q&A. Do you fancy doing one?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Should we take, what time have we got? Oh, that's good. Have we got a microphone, or should we just shout? Should people just shout at us? And then I'll say it back in here so people at home can listen. Okay, good. So we'll take some Q&A. Keep it nice and short, because I won't be able to remember it, and then I'll have to say it back in here. So something nice and punchy. Who'd like to kick us off? Dennis, is that you smiling at me saying, I've got a question for Libby? Oh, wow. That wasn't set up, by the way.
You mentioned that diverse and hidden jobs sector. Now, what I do is in education, and it's bringing business together. But a lot, there's that sort of mindset that you can't be what you can't see. Going back to when you were at school, learning about the world of work, thinking about what you wanted to do, what support did you get, and how would you translate that if you were to speak to other young people in education?
Yeah. What?
How am I going to remember all that?
Well, am I going to remember my answer?
Do you want to sit here? What support did you get when Libby was younger to get into the profession, maybe? What raised your aspirations?
Yeah.
Thanks, Dennis.
And then I think you said, and then how does it translate to what we're doing now?
Okay.
So actually, when I was at school, there wasn't a lot of career advice around that. I mean, we'd have the careers advisor. I'm actually older than I look, guys, just had a really easy paper around. So we'd have a careers advisor that would come into our school when we're in like year 10 or year 9 and be like, so they could loosely direct our choices to our GCSEs, and it would be like, fill out this form, and you fill it out, and then mine came back as, you'd be a great careers advisor. And I was like, thanks, I'm not doing your job, thank you. So how does it translate to what we're doing? Our big passion is to normalise a life in film for people of the Northeast, because I kind of sick of hearing me talk about this. Like when you're living in London, it's so normal for matey boy down the road who lives next door to be like, oh, he worked on this film as like, I don't know, a grip, or did the lighting on this, blah, blah, blah. It's like so normal, and we don't have that up here. And certainly when I was growing up, actually, and still now, my mum's like, so what have you done for work today? What do you mean you're not in the office 9 till 5? She just doesn't understand not only my industry, but like freelance. And I remember, bless her, it only comes from, you know, the best for you. When I taught her about my master's degree, she was like, oh, I thought you were going to say you're going to go back and do law. And I was like, oh, my mum. I was like, I've just got to the best school in the world for acting, but never mind. So I think for us, our big drive is to say to people, and especially the younger and the next generation that are up and coming, look, this is something you can do. This is within your reach. There is a big movement, especially around working class people, diverse people, getting them in front and behind of the camera. Like, we need it. And that's why also we need independent work, because that inspires people to write their stories, and you get more diverse stories. Like, nobody's interested, and sorry if this offends anyone, but in the rich, white, middle class man's view on the world. Like, that's gone now. We want to see stories from, like the Muslim population in South Tyneside. Who knows about that? That's not in the region. Nobody. Like, this is what we're so passionate about. And so with that, how it translates to us is you can have opportunities to be camera trainee, lighting trainee, shadowing. Like, we really want to implement all of this. We're open to, and we have been going around schools and colleges and networks and just helping to inspire people and tell them, you know, maybe if you want to go to London and live that London life for a bit, if you want to go to Manchester and live your best life and then come home, you can still do that. But also we want it to be an option that you can do your career that you've trained in, that you've paid a lot of money for in your hometown, and have a certain quality and a certain standard of life, be able to afford a house, you know, normal things that normal people get to do. Like, you should be able to do it. And so that's our big drive at the minute. And when we are in production, we will be hiring, hopefully, a lot of local crew. Obviously, there's not the infrastructure there at the minute, and that's another thing that we're looking to do, build. How do we get these kids out of, you know, media school to have more of the actual physical vocational skills that they'll need to work on a set? And how do we do that and put that into a college? Like, is there an academy there? Is there a kick there, Gran? Do you know what I mean? Like, all these things that we are working towards, and we have got them in place in our minds, but then it's just, we have to start with the first things first, and that is getting the productions up and running, and then we can help everyone else.
Passionate.
So passionate. I am passionate these days. I'm getting old, Ian.
No one's mum knows what we do anyway.
They don't, do
Nah,
they?
I've got no idea. Yes, Bernard?
So back on the sort of education side, if somebody was to turn around to you now and say, are you prepared to go and deliver film school in a box to a load of students at a school or any of that, are you up for it?
Are you up
Talk
for
to me, I'll
delivering?
A film school in a box.
A film school in the box.
Into a school with all the
Oh, okay.
equipment that you need,
Ooh.
and teach those students how to make film, let's say 8 weeks.
Yeah, me and my business partner have actually done similar things to that with the unemployed, sort of intensive TV workshops, I guess, you know, sort of covering all departments in sort of like a broad overview. And like 9 out of 10 times they say they've never even thought about this sort of stuff before. But, you know, everybody engages with film and TV, but they just never really give the thought of how it's made or how it got in front of them, you know. So we've always had a really good response to that, and it's something that we're facilitated to do if there's a demand, you know what I mean? But like, it is the demand, you know, because like, I think the difficulty is being in this area, it's like predominantly a working class community where there's not a lot of money, and, you know, the equipment itself is so expensive to get hands on with like a production style camera and stuff, and understand how the lighting works and the sound work and gimbals work all in tandem with each other, which is kind of like, you know, it's kind of what I was mentioning before, because like, unfortunately, we need to change this, the way like the entertainment industry is. Like, once you start on a path, then hard to get out of it. So if you start in the sound department, that's kind of you, unless you want like a really radical change in your life where you have to kind of start at the bottom again. So yeah, so like, I would like to offer that opportunity to like younger people to like familiarize themselves with the different departments if they are interested in the thing, because I think the earlier you figure out who you want to be, the easier it'll become to climb that ladder.
Yeah, I've actually just had a talk. I did like a 3-hour lecture for TVNC out in Stockton, just on producing and how you produce something from start to finish. And then I also taught them, you know, how you can do that without any equipment, just using your phone. Everything's shot in 4K on your phone now, which you didn't know you had that facility if nobody taught you. Like, just little things like this. And I was like, just go out, just make films, and then you get used to it, and you can edit it now on iMovie. It's fantastic. And then once you've learned that, then you can progress to like DaVinci or whatever you want to use. So yeah, we are kind of like doing sort of those things at the moment. So if there was like an education facility that you wanted us to go, yeah.
We're embedding the Rain Dance and the Rain Dance Film Festival and so on, and they are currently looking for practitioners in the north to launch Rain Dance North East and bring the film festival and film school in a box and everything to the road priest.
Oh, fantastic. I actually know Davide. I think he heads up the London
Yeah.
very well. So I've already got that connection. Maybe we can have a little chat, see what we can do.
Cool. Thanks, Bernard. Voiceover.
Lovely
Bernard,
voice, hasn't he?
hasn't he?
It's given Brian blessed.
Yeah, isn't he? Yeah. He's all over it. He's all over it. Yeah.
I've got the script, I've got the things narrative. I just need someone to understand how to be formatted in film.
Mhm.
It's kind of a time critical piece that needs to be done, so I don't know how to go about it and kind of fit in your agenda somehow, you know.
That's a good question. So someone's got a script.
Mhm.
They don't know where to start.
Mhm.
How do you pitch it? How does it start?
So the first thing you would do is like make a pitch deck. If you're happy with your script, you then create a pitch deck. So it's kind of like an overview of the story, like a synopsis with like imagery, so you get an idea of how it's going to look. Kind of the characters, the general characters, who you'd want involved in it, and you pitch it that way. But then also it depends if you want to make the film on your own or if you want to get. Because there's ways you can fund it on like GoFundMe
Yeah.
and things like this, for like small indie pieces as well. Yeah. Well, at the minute we don't usually take on. Is it called
Unsolicited, yeah.
Scripts, but if it's something that's going to fit in our slate, we'd be more than happy to like have a read.
Yeah,
about you
yeah. Like
guys?
it's always worth having a conversation before you send with a script, just in case like there's anything similar already on with slates. We don't want that conversation to arise when we go, that's probably not for us, and then we have something very similar crop up and stuff, So like it's typically why companies don't take on unsolicited scripts. But like I come from like a TV development background, so I've had experience with like the TV way of making things, which is slightly different to that. So like I don't know if you know of the BBC's writer room. The BBC open their doors to sort of unsolicited scripts, like I think once a year. I'm not sure when it is this year, it might have already happened, might be twice a year. But if you keep an eye out on that, there'll be a thing there that they'll partner you with a production company if you wanted to go the television route.
Yeah, I would say just keep writing it, and then when you're happy with that draft, I'll give you my email at the end of this. I'm more than happy to have a read, because we are, about local stories and authentic local stories, and you're an authentic local writer. So we will definitely have a read and see if it can fit on our script. The only thing I would say is, well, you have got time on our slate. You have got time on your side at the moment, because obviously we're still in pre-production on our first two. And then once we've done those, we'll be looking to expand our slate. So it might take a while, but that's just the nature of the business. But that means you can hone your craft and get the script up and running the way you want it to be.
Nicely done. That was good. What was your name? Right, okay, that's not getting forgotten, right? There you go. Jeff?
Just on a wider thing, how worried are you about if the industry's going to take Trump's latest tariffs, or will that give us more opportunities just to concentrate on doing stuff?
I don't even know what they mean. Like,
Oh,
like it's
all going
it's
to
genuine
Tom,
nonsense.
yeah.
I don't know how you tariff a film, Like, so I don't like, it scares us because I don't fully understand what it means, But like, we did some global missions recently to like the Far East, and what we kind of learned there is that there seems to be a global demand, kind of what you were saying before, for like authenticity. So like Indonesia want Indonesian films, the Philippines want Filipino films and stuff. And we're sort of finding an avenue into like servicing them, because they're after sort of the influence of like Western quality stamps, like our sort of standards and stuff. So like, what I would say is like, maybe we don't need the US as a market anymore. Maybe it's the US's market and the rest of the world.
Yeah, and also on that, even the films that are coming out of America are now majoritively shot in London in the UK, whether it be Warner Brothers Studios or Leavesden, continually. So the industry over there is having to come over here because the rates and things are just too high for them over there to like survive or put a production together. Like, for example, the supporting artists have got a great union over there where the hourly pay rate once you go overtime is just skyrockets, and so they've found out it's much cheaper to shoot in the UK because we don't have those kind of unions, and so they're coming over here to shoot anyway. So I think,
ironically, I think Captain America was entirely shot in the UK.
No way, was it? Wow.
I think that it makes it more expensive to come over here to pick up the steel. So we lose the production, big productions.
I suppose location filming will always be a thing, you know what I mean? Like, we have resources that just America will never have, you know, like, you know, there's a reason Indiana Jones wanted to use the castle and things like that, because it's there, it's real, you know? So I think, you know, I don't know, like I say, it's a very confusing time.
Yeah, and also on that, like, I don't think the studios have ever really recovered from COVID because, you know, they were backed up that much of productions that are booked in time and people were on contracts for certain productions that I think they're still recovering from that now. So if you were to take a few of those out of the mix, I don't think it's going to really hinder anyone. It just means that more British things can get made quicker. Would be my view anyway.
And go and see the bench at the Customs House, by the way. Got to get it in, Jeff. Got to get it in. Danny?
So circling back to your feature film stuff. So typically when you get feature film funding, how are you going to convince them to keep, so Kingsman, for example, how are you going to convince them to keep the investment and the money in South Tyneside? Rather than them taking away, no, we're going to do this in London. How are we going to control it?
Neil and I are actually, and Neil especially is incredibly passionate that we won't be doing that, that it'll be entirely Nana Peg, and if we are going to go up with someone, it's probably going to be someone like Red Stamp or someone that we know, like Craig Conway's production company, because we don't want that to happen. We want it to be shot here, and if something like that did happen, like we're in talks about maybe with some investors from abroad, then the story's still going to be in the Northeast. The location shots are still going to be in the Northeast with Northeast crew. If we have to fly that crew, budget dependent, abroad and give them that experience, then that's what we're willing to do, really. No, because we're not looking for, the investment doesn't have to come from the Northeast. The investment can come from anywhere. Obviously, Neil's already got his little black book of investors that will invest in any of his films, really, anyway. And so, yeah, we've got things to draw from. It doesn't mean that the investment doesn't have to come from the Northeast. And if it comes out from outside of the Northeast, then it'll be people that trust us enough to be trusting our vision. Do you know what I'm saying? Because we have to pitch the story to them anyway and our ethos to them. So if they're buying into it, then you've bought into it. Do you know what I'm saying? We're not going to sell our souls for a bit of cash because we've invested too much, babe. I've just moved my life up here again. Do you know what I mean? So I won't be going anywhere soon. I've just got me water to work in my flat. After 6 months, I'm staying for a bath.
I've got time for one more. Yeah.
Question, I obviously the Sunderland, so which I've seen as a great
No, it's going to be a fully narrative piece. Yeah.
I wondered how much of that's going to be. I just wondered whether you had any thoughts about the split between factual and narrative.
Our slate's going to be predominantly narrative, just because that's what we're passionate about and that's what we want to do, essentially. But yeah.
For us, it's going to probably be a split. We're quite our real interest is in with narrative, but like, you know, there's a lot more money in terms of TV commission and stuff in factual, which are a lot easier to produce and quicker to turn around and stuff. So like our ideal scenario is we get like a nice factual daytime thing that's so heavily formatted, it just kind of looks after itself, but enables us to kind of go off and do whatever we want to do, you know.
Cool. Is there anything we haven't said that we should have said? Are we happy?
I'm always happy.
Yeah, happy? Awesome. Connor and Libby,